How's it going, college football fans? This is AJ Forbes with the BarnBurner Sports Network. We are officially into week 4. And since we are a quarter of the way through the college football season, believe it or not, I thought it was a great opportunity for us to look back on the first 4 or 5 weeks of college football, if you include week 0. What I wanted to start out with was a couple of the big headlines that have come out so far this week and last week and the week before that and the week before that. Uh, Big topic of discussion is the fact that Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer is going to miss several games this year with a broken bone in his right hand. Now, apparently, this broken hand occurred in the first quarter of the Auburn game, which turned out to be a hell of a barn burner in its own right. But he played 3 quarters with a broken bone in his throwing hand. And during those 3 quarters, he made some big time throws and he scored a rushing touchdown. I mean, this guy is really a tough son of a bitch, man. He was my preseason Heisman pick. Obviously, the fact that he's going to miss at least 2 games with them having a bye week this upcoming week, the fact that he's going to miss at least 2 games probably hurts his chances of winning that Heisman Trophy. Unfortunately, he was off to a great start. He led the Sooners in rushing and passing. He was seventh in passing yards in the country, and he was sixth in rushing touchdowns for a quarterback in the country. Like I said, he was my preseason Heisman pick. His odds were, plus 1,000, something along those lines before the season started. I really didn't understand why they were that low to begin with. Last year at Washington State, of all places, he led the country in total touchdowns. He had 35 passing touchdowns, and I think he had 15 rushing touchdowns. The guy was just electric. And now, after he had that successful season, his offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle then took the offensive coordinator job over at Oklahoma. Obviously, John Mateer ended up following him to Oklahoma. Uh, by the time he hurt his hand, he was the leading Heisman candidate to win. He was the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman. Now, when you look at Oklahoma's schedule, it looks like there might be a chance for him to come back for the Red River Shootout over in Texas. And yes, we will call it the Red River Shootout at BarnBurner Sports. It would be really nice to see him back for that game. They have a bye week this week. They have Kent State the week after that. I'm not sure who they play before they play Texas, but then they play Texas. That is 3 weeks. He got surgery on Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, September 24th. He had surgery Wednesday morning. Uh, and 3 weeks is a tough. I'm not sure of the extent. I don't really know if anyone is sure of the extent of the broken hand. However, 3 weeks sounds pretty rushed, especially since it's on his throwing hand. If it was on his left hand, I could see he'd be able to push through it. But 3 weeks is a tough turnaround for this kind of injury. But I tell you what, like I said at the beginning, dude's a tough son of a bitch. And if anyone's going to be able to do it, I think he should be able to do it. And coming back for the Red River Shootout, being able to play Texas and really, showcase what you can do. They play Texas. He'll be back at least by the time they play Tennessee. But if I were him, I would want to be back for that Texas game, even if I'm close, even if I'm 85% uh, healed from that injury. I'm trying to play in that game. No, he's probably not coming back this season. Who knows? But I mean, if this is his last college football season, I would want to play in that game. It's one of the best. It's one of the best rivalries in all of college football. So really hope. I mean, as a fan of college football, I would really love to see him back for that rivalry game. But we will see him return for the Sooners at some point this season. Moving on, we're going to actually stay in the state of Oklahoma.
Oklahoma State.
Fired Mike Gundy. Never thought I'd be able to say that. That is a situation where you think that he would be able to go out on his own terms. And the fact that they fired him 4 weeks into the college football season, I mean, it's September. Why? I don't understand. If his leash was so short, if his leash was 4 games in September, why did you bring him back at all? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But Mike Gundy started coaching at Okie State back in 2001 as the offensive coordinator, associate head coach. Come 2005, he ends up becoming the head football coach. Over the course of those, I don't know, 20 years, he was 170 and 90. Guy didn't, guy was closer to, I mean, 170 football wins is insane. And the fact that he didn't even get to 100 losses in 20 years, I mean, that's especially at a place like Oklahoma State, who isn't necessarily known for great football besides, the heyday of Barry Sanders. They've never been a powerhouse. They've always been a little brother to the University of Oklahoma. And so the fact that he had so much success at Okie State is phenomenal. He made a bowl game in 18 consecutive season in 18 consecutive seasons at one point, with 12 of those being bowl wins. He had 10 different seasons with at least 10 wins, two of which were 12-win seasons. He ended up with five top 15 ranked finishes. I mean, this success. I mean, when you think about Mike Gundy, he's one of those coaches who, when you think about a program, you think about one coach. I'm talking about Bill Snyder at Kansas State. I'm talking about Tom Osborne at Nebraska. I'm talking about Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. When you think Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy is synonymous with the program. Uh, he is a guy that I think everybody would love to get on a microphone and let him start talking about ball, start talking about football. His sound bites are fantastic. I'm pretty sure there's probably a 45-minute, hour-long YouTube compilation on just his press conferences.
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
And it's rightfully there. I mean, it's phenomenal. His sound bites are incredible, but it sounds like he wants to get right back into coaching somewhere. And if we know anything about football coaches, they're put on this earth to coach, and they'll coach until they can't anymore. That actually brings me to my next headline. Clemson continues to fall. They are in free fall right now. They are currently 1-3 after losses to LSU, Georgia Tech, and Syracuse last week. All three of those losses came by one possession. Clemson is basically the same team that they were last year, right? They were obviously a playoff team. Now, Clemson had a tough road to get into the playoff. They had to go play SMU, and they ended up beating SMU to really secure that last playoff spot. And they're basically the same team that they were last year. They have the same head coach. They have a lot of the same defensive pieces. They have the same quarterback. A lot of the core pieces of the team are the same as they were from last year when they were in the college football playoff, when they won the ACC. Now, many are attributing this to Dabo Swinney's unwillingness to adapt to the modern landscape and adapt to the standard mode of operation in college football nowadays with the transfer portal, with NIL. Now, that is admirable. And I think if we had my friend Noah Ambuel on the pod, he would say the same thing. It is very admirable. However, it perhaps hindered Clemson's ability to improve from last year's success. In football, you cannot bank on last year's success to transfer into this upcoming season. And we have seen that. They are 1-3. All three losses have come by one possession. And I think this unwillingness to adapt has, we've seen it. We've seen very similar situations across the country with older coaches. The most prominent one, obviously, is Nick Saban. Now, Nick Saban, I think I can't remember if he was 70 or not by the time he retired, but he was getting close if he wasn't. Obviously he was getting older, but college football just wasn't the same as it was. I think part of the reason why he retired was his wife, Miss Terry, started pointing out all of the reasons why he was coaching in college, why he decided to put his name on the on the Alabama program and the LSU program and trying to help so many college kids achieve their dream of playing in the NFL and achieving their goal of using football as a means to pay for their college education. I think I think that's been lost in a lot of places, especially in these big name programs, and we'll get to big name programs here in a minute. You talk about these big name programs and the type of players that they attract. They are the ones that are going to attract those 4 and 5 star players, those guys that will likely, if everything goes right for them, play in the NFL someday. What does that mean though? In order to attract and retain, because part of this game is retention now. It's not just recruiting, it's keeping the players that you have. Part of this game now is paying enough. I mean, there are market there are going rates on the market for players depending on the position nowadays. I'm pretty sure for a quarterback and to get a really good quarterback in college football nowadays, you have to spend 3, 4, 5 million dollars. That's crazy. I know of a quarterback who is in the Big 12. He gets a check for what was it, $350,000 a month. Pretty damn good, I'd say. I don't know what people would do if they got a check for $350,000 a month, period, let alone get it every single month. That's just the game that we're in now. And I think these older guys, these Dabo Sweeneys, these Nick Sabans, keep going down the line. I can even throw Kirk Ferentz in there. He's pretty old school with the way he with the mode of operation he has, and that's great. And I think it is admirable. These guys are trying to hold on to the days of old when college football was pure. However, if you are so unwilling to adapt to the modern landscape that you del deliberately, and I say deliberately, refuse to improve your team when other programs are taking advantage of it, then I think you expect a 1-3 start to the season. Dabo Sweeney seemed, I mean, he said it point blank, we're not winning a national championship this year. And unfortunately, national championships, well, I guess not unfortunately, national championships are the expectation in Clemson after he's won 2 now. I don't know how much longer Dabo Sweeney is going to be at Clemson if he refuses to hop on the train that everybody else is hopping on. And I love Dabo Sweeney. I could probably get Noah Ambuel again, my friend Noah Ambuel. I could probably get him on the pod and he'll go for 30, 35 minutes about how good Dabo Sweeney is for college football and how good Clemson is. And even though they're 1-3, they're still a horse. I mean, that's just the situation that you're in right now with Clemson. Going on the opposite end of the spectrum here, can we talk about Trinidad Chambliss? I don't know if you guys know who he is, but Trinidad Chambliss transferred to Ole Miss this past offseason. He had spent his entire career at the D2 Ferris State, who is an absolute powerhouse. I played them my senior year at the University of Montana, and it was a dogfight. I mean, we talk about Division 2 teams. That Division 2 team could compete with a lot of FCS programs. They'd probably beat a lot of Group of 5 programs. The amount of D1 bounce back guys. There's no FCS over in Michigan. So if you're not an FBS player in Michigan, that's the next step down. Ferris State is essentially an FCS program. At Ferris State, he had his last season there last year. He had 26 touchdowns passing, pretty good. He also had 25 rushing touchdowns. Anytime you get 50 touchdowns in a season, I'd call that a pretty good success. Austin Simmons was Ole Miss's starter to begin the season. His story itself is pretty cool. He's one of the youngest players in college football. Pretty sure he was 17 or 18 by the time he started this year. Was a baseball player, super smart, but he got hurt. And after he got hurt, it's been 2 games that Trinidad Chambliss has come in and been the guy for the Rebels. In those 2 starts, he has 719 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and he has 195 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in 2 games, 2 starts. That's what he's working with. Now, an argument can be made that he should be the starter for Ole Miss even when Simmons is healthy to return. Simmons, again, he's young, but very promising. He was struggling with turnovers. He had 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions before he got hurt. And he was a less of a factor in the run game. I don't even know if he had 50 yards rushing when he was the starter. Now, they have a big game against LSU again, which we will talk about here pretty soon. They have a huge game against LSU. And the report came out today that Trinidad Chambliss is expected to be the starter for the Rebels. Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss's head coach, if you didn't know, was on the Pat McAfee show earlier today, again, Wednesday, September 24th. And they brought it up and they said Trinidad Chambliss is expected to be the starting quarterback for Ole Miss against the top 15 matchup against LSU. And Lane Kiffin was like, oh, now this is probably just generic coach speak. He's been doing this for a long time and he's a character. He was like, oh, I didn't know that. I guess I have to tell my staff that Trinidad is starting. With that being said, I am in the camp that, I mean, I am in the camp that you keep this guy rolling until he proves you otherwise. There was obvious struggles with Austin Simmons. There's nothing against him. Again, like I said at the beginning, he's a very promising quarterback. Is likely going to be doing very well, just like every other quarterback that Lane Kiffin has had over the past, almost decade of college football. But the conversation is also, is this a quarterback controversy? And I think the quarterback controversy is it's different. I don't see quarterback controversies like I used to. A quarterback controversy usually occurs when you have 2 or 3 guys vying for the starting quarterback job who may or may not be good enough to start. You have to decide as a coach which guy you want to roll with, which guy is going to put us in a better position to win ball games, even though you probably know, even though that you know that the guy that you pick isn't going to be the guy that wins a ball game. When you play football, and you have a quarterback, there are 3 different types of quarterbacks. There are guys that will straight up lose you the game. They'll straight up lose you the game. They make countless mistakes. They turn the ball over too much. They'll call a play the wrong way. Nobody wants a guy that'll lose you the game. Second guy, second type of quarterback is the guy that won't lose you the game. Now, this isn't a guy that's going to make a ton of plays. He's not going to be flashy. He's going to get the ball where it needs to be. He's going to be smart. He's going to take care of the ball. But you know when it's crunch time that the guy isn't going to win you the game. He's not going to make the key play to win the game. You have to rely on somebody else. Then there's the third kind of quarterback. Third kind of quarterback is the guy that you know you can rely on to win the game. He is elite. He is a guy that will make that play to win you the football game. Put the ball in his hands, and he will do great things with it. He doesn't turn the ball over. He is flashy. He doesn't have to be flashy, but tends to be flashy. He's just straight up better than everybody else. This quarterback controversy in Oxford isn't necessarily a quarterback controversy. You have two good quarterbacks that you know that you can win ball games with. Jury's still out on both of them, honestly. I mean, how much of a decision can you make based off of two games, you know? However, you have two quarterbacks that can probably win you the game. Trinidad Chambliss looks really good, looks pretty damn good. And if I were Lane Kiffin, I'd just keep riding that. But it's not a quarterback controversy. Ole Miss just has two quarterbacks that can win you ball games. And that's a great situation to be in. Moving on. Speaking of controversy, let's talk about the AP poll. Now, if you haven't heard of Josh Pate is a college football analyst and journalist, uh, and he has taken it upon himself to directly challenge the AP poll, what it stands for, what it is, the entire institution behind it. It's pretty sick. He's done so much in this environment that he's actually created what's known as the JP poll to give a more accurate representation of what the AP poll probably should be. A couple weeks ago, I actually made a video on this across our socials. A couple weeks ago, AP voter Haley Sawyer was quoted as saying, "I don't want to get too much into my process or logic. It's really fun, but it probably doesn't matter in the end." I just wanted to sit in that for a second. That just all that says to me is that AP voters don't take their job seriously. It means they don't watch games. It means they just they throw names on a ballot and they turn it in. Like I said, I made a video on this very thing, specifically focusing on what I thought was disrespect to USF, University of South Florida, after being only the only program through 2 weeks, 3 weeks if you count week zero, being the only program through 2 weeks of college football with two top 25 wins at the time. And they were only ranked 16th. And my thought process was, obviously they would go on to lose to Miami by 20 points a couple weeks ago, which knocked them out of the top 25 completely. But at the time, they were the only team in the country with two top 25 wins. But they play in the American and not the Big Ten. They're the Bulls and not the Buckeyes. And therefore, AP poll didn't feel like they needed to treat them fairly. They were going to say, "Hey, we're going to rank you. We're going to rank you. You're barely going to be in the top 20, and you're going to like it." Now, if you put that resume on any other team in the country at the time, you say Miami was the only team in the country that had two top 25 wins, they probably would have been number two, maybe number one. They would have been in the top three. Tell you that. The AP poll should be a direct ranking of college football's best 25 resumes. Branding and preseason shouldn't matter. They should have no relevance to how these voters vote. Yet there is a premium on these blue blood programs and these brands, and a bias against these, non-traditional elite programs, the non-power four, the group of five, little termites that are running around college football nowadays. But then it even applies to programs like Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech. Vanderbilt for the longest of times has been seen as just the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the SEC. They were even the fact that they were SEC didn't matter. They were seen as one of the worst programs in college football. And Georgia Tech, after Paul Johnson left, they it was just a downhill slope. Paul Johnson brought them to the tippy top of college football. They played in the orange. They won the Orange Bowl. They did so many great things, and then he retired. He left, and they went right back to the bottom. Paul Johnson is another one of those guys that I think doesn't get enough respect for what he did in college football. Just look at his resume. Programs like Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech haven't gotten nearly enough respect in the poll for what they've done this year. And that can be attributed, I think, to the brand that they have, everything that I just talked about. Both are 4-0, and both have top 12 ranked wins. I mean, they're 4-0, top 12 ranked wins. Both of them. Vanderbilt had a dominant 31-7 win over number 11 South Carolina. Now, if you look back at it, if you're a South Carolina fan, you're probably yelling at the screen or yelling in your car if you're listening to the podcast version. Yeah, Lenore Sellers was injured in the game, but they didn't have a whole lot of success when he was actually in the game. Threw an interception, had -3 rushing yards, wasn't going to play much of a factor. And I don't know, yes, the quarterback is the most important part of a team, but one player isn't going to give you a 30-point swing on the scoreboard. Just saying. And then you're telling me and then you go on the other side of it, you're telling me that like Texas is a top 10 team in the country right now. Have they looked like a top 10 team? Have they looked like one of the 10 best teams in college football all season, even though they're ranked 10th right now as of today? They lost to the only good opponent that they faced so far. They lost 14-7 to Ohio State. And they've looked lethargic in their wins. I mean, they had a 17-point win over UTEP. I don't know about you. I don't know if you know a whole lot about UTEP football. They're not bad, but if you're a top 10 team in the country, your second string players should be playing about halfway through the third quarter against a team like UTEP. That's what a top 10 team in the country should do. Mississippi State is still unranked after they started the season 4-0. They had a top 12 ranked win over Arizona State. Let me go back to that Texas thing real quick. The reason I bring up Texas and Arch Manning has had a hell of a media hailstorm come his way. But just look at the time, look at the resumes between Texas and USF. I mean, is it really that different? You would argue USF has the better resume. They beat they beat two ranked teams at the beginning of the season before they lost to Miami, who was Ohio State played. And then you look at who was Texas played. The only ranked team that Texas has played this year, they lost to. But they're still in the top 10 because it's Texas, and that's the brand. And the preseason hype, they were going to win the SEC. Arch Manning was going to be a first round draft pick. He was going to be the next generation of Manning to take over football, and he very well might. But that shouldn't mean anything. That preseason hype, those expectations shouldn't mean anything when it comes to the AP poll. At one point, Notre Dame was 0-2 and ranked in the top 25. Branding. Now you can argue those games and say that they were against ranked opponents. But I think the issues with the AP poll really stems from the AP poll voters, excuse me, really stems from the AP voters refusing to admit when they're wrong. It's okay to take a team out of the top 25 when they don't have a win through 2 weeks. Well, they played two ranked teams in a row and they've lost both of them and they're 0-2. They don't have a win on the season, but they're still ranked. It's okay to take them out. And it's okay to put them back in when you feel like that they deserve it. But that's not how the current system works. We have the preseason poll that comes out, and those voters just ride on those preseason rankings until they literally can't. And the only reason Notre Dame was still ranked in the top 25 after they were 0-2 to start the year is because of the ranking that they had before the season and the arbitrary rankings of the teams that they played. Oh, you lose to a ranked team? Oh, we're not going to drop very much. Oh, you lose to another ranked team? Well, it's a ranked team. Don't need to drop you very much. Hell, USF. Again, I'm going to bring it back to USF because this is what started the whole conversation in my head. USF was 2-0. They were 2-0 with two ranked wins and unranked. Notre Dame played two ranked teams, lost. They were 0-2 and they were still ranked. Why can't we just look at what the teams are? Why can't voters, they don't watch enough games. They don't watch enough games to be informed about who needs to be ranked where, honestly. And at the end of the day, it needs to be a merit-based system where voters actually will watch the games to make informed decisions. But that's exactly what the AP poll isn't. And that's unfortunate. Thank God we have the college football playoff rankings coming up in a few weeks. Now, if you have a wedding to go to this weekend, two things. One, no, you don't. Two, you need to have a serious conversation about the state of that friendship or the state of of your relationship with that family member. This is a massive weekend of college football, and I feel sorry for the people that are attending weddings this year or this weekend. Super happy for the people that are getting married. However, this is a terrible decision to get married during the fall. I don't know why people do it. One of the games that we've already talked about is number 4 LSU at number 13 Ole Miss. Ole Miss is actually favored. In terms of rankings, in terms of what the AP poll says, they're the technical underdogs. They're ranked 13th. LSU is ranked 4th. But it is in Oxford. Ole Miss is a 1.5 point favorite. It's essentially a pick 'em. One of the great storylines coming out of this game is the fact that Lane Kiffin is the head coach for Ole Miss. His daughter decided to hard launch a relationship with LSU linebacker Whit Weeks, who is one of the best linebackers in college football. She decided to hard launch that relationship this week, the week of the game against LSU. So funny. So funny. What makes it funnier is that Lane Kiffin decides to comment on Twitter below that hard launch, below that post, and says, take the over. Over's at 54.5. Lane Kiffin is a guy of his word. Guy's an offensive genius. Take the over. Like I said, I'm very excited about Trinidad Chambliss. Pretty sure he's going to end up starting. I'd probably start him again, even if Austin Simmons was healthy. I'm super excited about Trinidad Chambliss and this Rebel offense. The offense is ridiculous. Ever since they started implementing all of this Briles stuff, this Briles tree veer and shoot system, they've been nearly unstoppable. The passing game is really what has showed up. 33% of their passes this year have gone over 20 yards. When a third of your passes are explosive plays, that's a winning business model. I'm not convinced that LSU can get the deal done after an underwhelming wins all season. Yes, they're undefeated, but you go look at their wins, and they are one possession wins over, one or two, one, two, there's a 10-point win in there. They're not very convincing wins. I wouldn't be very, they had a 10-1 point against Florida. Florida's head coach might get fired by the end of the year. I don't know. Someone, a booster gave up $21 million to buy him out. So I'm going to pick Ole Miss in this one to win outright and obviously cover. You could probably give me 3.5 points on Ole Miss, and I'd say they'd probably cover still. And who am I to argue with Lane Kiffin? Guy says take the over, take the over. Next game we're going to talk about number 6 Oregon at number 3 Penn State. Penn State is a 3.5 point favorite in this one. This is a whiteout game. This is a whiteout game in Happy Valley. Penn State has won 8 of the last 10 whiteout games, and I'm pretty sure they've won at least the last 6. James Franklin has an abysmal record against top 10 teams. He is 4-20. Yes, you heard that right. He is 4-20. Drew Aller has been underwhelming. He is Only 6 throws over 20 yards this year. Again, explosive plays. We saw this Penn State team lose in the college football playoff, rushing for like 300 yards and lose. Penn State hasn't been challenged yet. Neither has Oregon. However, I trust Dan Lanning more than I trust James Franklin. Believe it or not, I think when you look at Dan Lanning is quickly becoming probably the best coach in college football. I'll say it. He's at least top three. He's a program builder. He's part of that Nick Saban tree. He is a program builder. Big fan of Dante Moore, big fan of that defense. I'm picking Oregon to win the game outright. I know Penn State is a 3.5 point favorite. I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't know if they're going to do it. I'm picking Oregon to win the game outright. Next one, second to last game that we're going to talk about this week. Number 17, Alabama at number 5, Georgia. Georgia is again, 3.5 point favorite. Let's be honest. Alabama has been suspect since Kalen DeBoer has come into town. Yes, it's incredibly difficult to follow in the footsteps of the greatest college football coach of all time, but you still have the athletes, you still have the resources that Saban had. You have the keys to the car. You just can't crash it. That was more so specific to last year. This year is just, I mean, I'm not impressed. I can't remember if it was last week or 2 weeks ago where Dan Orlovsky, he was looking at the Alabama film from that week, and he counted over 20 loafs on film. And now, if you're unfamiliar with what a loaf is, that is generally a play where a player is walking on the field when a play is still going. It's basically just a lack of effort. It is a visible lack of effort on a play. This is what a loaf is. There were 20 of those for Alabama. Can you imagine what 20 loafs would look like on an Alabama team coached by Nick Saban? No, you can't, because it doesn't happen. The title line came into the season with expectations that they would be in contention for the best offensive line in the country. They were on the Joe Moore Award watch list for a reason. But they have been exceptionally underwhelming, especially the tackle positions, and especially Caden Proctor. He looked rough to start the beginning of the season. I'm not a guy who is going to BarnBurner Sports is supposed to be the player's platform for sports, for talking about sports, for giving their story. We will always be on the player side because nobody else will be. However, we have to be objective. We can't say that we can't say that it's good when it's not. And Caden Proctor, who was supposed to be and might still be, a first round pick by the end of the season, he has not looked great, and the offensive line hasn't looked great either. With that being said, Ty Simpson has looked pretty damn good for what he's going through right now. He has 9 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions, doesn't turn the ball over. And despite the struggles along the O-line, and despite the fact that they have the 102nd ranked rushing attack in the country when it comes to rushing yards per game, Ty Simpson looks really good. Georgia's also very good. Georgia's going to win. It's at Georgia. Georgia's the better team. They're coming off of a phenomenal overtime win over Tennessee. Georgia's going to win this game. I don't think Alabama as a program is in position to start winning these big games consistently. Georgia for the win, probably going to cover. The last game that we will talk about is the one that I'm most excited about. The FCS game of the week. I know, but most of you guys are probably turning off the podcast, turning off the video, but I'm always excited to talk about my alma mater. That's why I got the hat on right now. Number 5, Montana plays number 8, Idaho this week. No, it is not at the Kibby Dome. It is in Washington Grizzly Stadium. We are playing a 9:15 Central Time kickoff in the Mecca of college football. Yes, I said college football, not just FCS football. It's by far the best matchup in the FCS this week. I mean, it's number 5 versus number 8, and one of the best and the best venue in FCS football. It is the loudest stadium in FCS football. It's one of the top 10 loudest stadiums in college football, period. And you can go look that up. That's true. Montana has the best running back in the FCS. One of the best running backs, period, in America. Eli Gilman. Uh, Guy is averaging like 9 yards a carry, 400 yards rushing, playing like 2.5. I think he's played. There's more game there. He's played more games this year where he's played less than 3 quarters than he has 4 quarters. So that just tells you they just came off a 63-20 drubbing of Indiana State last week, and he might have had 10 touches, 120 yards. It was ridiculous. 3 touchdowns. Go look him up. Eli Gilman, absolute stud. Kaylee Ayat is the starting quarterback for the University of Montana. He's the son of the second best quarterback in the history of Montana football, Brian Ayat. First is Dave Dickinson. Kaylee has hit a career high in passing yards in 4 straight starts. And he's really hitting his stride. He's a young guy that came in when I was still there, when he was a freshman. Did kind of a rotating quarterback thing last year where he would start a few games and then another, Logan Fife would start a few games and he would come in. It was just kind of a spiraling staircase of, that's not the right word, but you know what I'm saying. It was 2 quarterbacks rotating in and out all year. Now that he is the starting quarterback and he has taken every snap except garbage time this season, you can really see that he's hitting his stride. Idaho has been an incredibly competitive program over the last 3 to 4 years. I mean, they've gone toe to toe with FBS programs. They had Oregon on their toes, I believe it was last year, until late. And they've made deep playoff runs the last 2 years, vying for that semi. I think they lost them. They ended up losing in the quarterfinals both years. They didn't end up making it in the semifinals, but they've made 2 deep playoff runs the last 2 years. This is going to be a great game. It's a great atmosphere. These are 2 great teams. It's another thing. If you guys are unaware of what FCS football is, it's fun. This is fun. This is the battle for the Little Brown Stein. The Little Brown Stein. There's this big old stein that they have for this. This is a huge rivalry game for both squads, even though they don't play every year, which is kind of unfortunate. But it's going to be a great game. Don't know what the lines are. Don't know if they've come out with them yet. However, Grizz by a million. That's the show, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys listening and tuning in to BarnBurner Sports Network, talking about college football. We will see you soon.